Hi, this is Seth Welling, and today I'm going to do another video on Wonder. I did a review of Wonder, short review, last night. I couldn't get into the Friday showing because it was all sold out, but what I thought I'd do was, thought I'd make this a series of maybe 3 videos, because when I was a kid, there were few movies about people with disabilities, kids with disabilities, but they all were the same format. They were a disabled kid. This formula is modeled directly after The Miracle Worker. Miracle Worker stars Patty Duke as Helen Keller. She won an Oscar in 1962 for the role. The first image you see of Helen Keller is her running through a field, but she's going like this, so she looks like an insane, combine, out-of-control robot, and that isn't good if you're a person with disability, because right then and there tells you all you need to know about the movie and about people with disabilities, that we are out of control and we need to be socialized and or humanized by non-disabled people. Annie Sullivan was played as sighted. She actually was also visually impaired and went to Perkins School for the Blind in Massachusetts. But in the movie, she was just a normal sighted person. Average sighted person, not normal. Basically, every movie has followed the same path, where this disabled kid needs to be socialized, like I said before. On the one hand, they are talking about people with disabilities. On the other hand, all the screenwriters are non-disabled, and I don't think that any of them have ever personally known, a person with a disability. This is a sore spot, but it's getting better. See, when I went to Dartmouth, my whole thing was, I'm going to research how people with disabilities are viewed. What are the images that come out of Hollywood and advertising and all these different mediums that talk about me? I mean, it could be anyone, people with visual impairments, people with hearing impairments. Lately, it's been all about people with autism, and it's all the same thing when you boil it down, people who have disabilities. When I was researching my master's thesis, was again that it all boils down to the Annie Sullivan, Helen Keller 1962 Miracle Worker film, where she's an insane robot child. This has ramifications for everyone with disabilities, because it makes people who don't know us more fearful and more questioning of our abilities. Got my license at 16, like with all my other non-disabled friends. Okay, so when I went down to Concord, I didn't have much of a problem getting a license. And, that's the big thing, license. And it's a normal thing. Most people get their license. But when I went to college in undergrad, I know a lot of, let me separate. I went to Dartmouth for a master's degree. I went to a state college for my undergrad degree. And there were other people with physical disabilities. Some of them couldn't get a license because there's only one person in the state who certifies people with disabilities, like people in wheelchairs, to learn how to drive. And apparently some of my friends said he's a nasty person. I don't know if the new one is like that. I have no idea. I got my license from the same guy who taught my friend, Dan Cunningham, great guy. You know, he took me out on the back roads instead of throwing me into traffic because he knew I was a little timid about it. And because of that, I got my license. You know, it's an important thing if you live in a rural state like New Hampshire, Vermont, where they just don't have public transportation, and that which they do have doesn't run on weekends or at night, and you have to call cabs, which can be exorbitant. So if you can drive, you should drive, basically. And no, you don't have to worry about calling friends for a ride in a store or any of that stuff. So what people see in the media about people with disabilities affects their overall feelings on people with disabilities. If they don't know someone like me, they have a vastly different opinion of what people with disabilities can do and can't do. Basically, I can do anything I want. It's harder for me to hike. It's harder for me to camp. I have skied when I was a younger guy. I don't do it now because just when you get older and slower and heavier, and you risk more injuries, or I would risk more injuries, and it's just not something I do anymore. But I like watching it on TV. As far as Wonder goes, Wonder was a different story. It was all about the kids, and not only Augie, who's the main character. It was about all the kids, almost every kid in the movie. Now, I read the book, and they covered every single main character, even the antagonist, the lead antagonist in the book. And I think that's very helpful for kids to establish that this person may not like me, but they are a person, and they have views, and they're equal to me. They just don't like me because they're afraid or something. In the movie, I mostly identified with two characters, those being Augie and Via. I also identified with the father and the mother because I am a social worker right now, and my job is to act like the mom and the dad and say, hey, let's go out and go to a store. Yeah, I know you don't like this store because it has too many people, but we'll do as much as we can, and if you really don't want to be there, we can leave. You know, you gotta set up limitations for fear. Like if you have fear of haunted houses or something, or clown movies. You can say, I'm gonna watch Killer Clowns from Outer Space, but if it gets too scary, I'm gonna turn it off. And I have the power to do that because it gives you power over your own fear. Or if you're slightly agoraphobic is fear of places. It's actually Greek for fear of a marketplace. You gotta have that control button that says, I'm going to Kmart. If Kmart is too scary, I'm getting out of there. And it's my choice. So, Augie I can identify with because I'm wearing sunglasses because my eyes do weird stuff and they don't look directly at the camera all the time. So this is for you, basically, you reviewers, so you're not like, what is his eyes doing? And I've had 4 operations, Augie had like 28. So I've had operations on my eye. This eye was a drifter. This eye was not a drifter. And when I was 11 months, I had an operation to straighten this eye. But afterwards, this eye drifts now. Well, when I was a kid, it still drifts. So sunglasses. My next operation was on my legs. And I have a whole thing about a little video you should watch if you really want to know how I learned to walk. Because I could walk, but I was on my toes and, really tippy. On my toes, see, down in the camera you can see, just really tippy. And so I fell a lot. And I had an operation in Boston and subsequent checkups and night casts, which lasted 11 years or so. And, I can walk. I'm not perfect. No one is perfect. But I can walk. I can run as fast as you can walk. And that's about it. Now my PBA is kicking in because it always kicks in when I want to say something. And PBA 2, I don't think there's any operation I can have for that, although Wonder really tested it because I was bawling and not really wanting to bawl, because when you have PBA, you laugh and or you cry without warning and without your permission. So your body's hijacked. Back to the story. My third and fourth operation were on my nose because I broke my nose when I was 5. I think must have been a fall. I fall a lot. And it looks okay here, but this side is a little smaller, that left side, because my nose gets shoved over something. So the first operation I had when I was 21. First nose operation. They let me out of the hospital too early, and I vomited the splint out of my nose. I know it's graphic, it's really graphic and painful, but it just flopped over and it failed. So when I don't know how old I was, but in 2011, May 2011, the day I signed up for Instagram, May 25th. I had an operation on nose again, and unfortunately I put on such a command performance coming out of anesthesia, and if you've never been on anesthesia, you're vomiting, it's horrible. The anesthesia is fine. Coming out of it, really, it's bad. And they decided to keep me, hence I didn't vomit out my splint again. When I say vomit, I was vomiting so hard that I didn't vomit out my nose, but my splint broke a stitch and said, sit down. So it was like one of those fail videos that people like to watch. So back doggy, I was afraid of going to school, but I'm friendly. It's weird because I'm an introvert extrovert. I'm talking to you like an extrovert, but I'm an introvert too. So when I see people, I like people, put their plaster, I have to go meet them and say, hi, how you doing? Welcome to school, how you been? And I really mean that, really like you. I'm not like a person who is fake. I don't go, oh, how are you? I like that sweater. If I like your sweater, I really like your sweater. If I like you, I really like you, and I want you to be happy like me. There we go, PBA. That's one of my ways of combating crying. I shake my head, or I raise my eyebrows, or I think of, oh, there's a light, look at the light, or I do anything, pinch myself just to not cry in front of people without them knowing, because it's really embarrassing. So if you like this video and we would like to see more from me, click like, subscribe, and visit my links in the dialog box below. Thank you and have a great day.